if the thing that you are doing to earn income is not providing you with joy and fulfillment and well-being, then when that money comes into your life, because money is just energy, when that money comes into your life, it's going to be laced with whatever emotion was there while you earned it. Hi, welcome to Finding Fuscata. I'm Sean. This is lesson number 5 in the fundamental section of the craft of manifestation. And today, as you can see, we're talking about emotional regulation. And I put this together a while back, and I'm not even sure if emotional regulation is the right way to do it, but I think by the end you'll see what I'm talking about. So I like this quote up here. It says, "Feel the feeling, but don't become it. Allow it and release it." And that is really, really important. As we're kind of unpacking this a little bit, you'll see what I mean by that. So looking at the summary here, the first thing to keep in mind is that we often think that we have emotions or that they overcome us. And we have said that, I've said that, I am angry, or I've said that, I am frustrated, or this is something I try to help with Quinny when she says, I am jealous or whatever it is, because when you say that you are something, when you say that you are that emotion, you're not just, you're letting it own you rather than you owning it. So a better way, and one thing that I train Quinny on and I train myself on, is to say, I feel angry. I feel sad. I feel, whatever that emotion is. So, but what this talks about, though, is that we often feel as if we have these emotions. They just show up and they overcome us. Like sometimes I'll feel the anger coming on, and I'm just having anger now, and I'm just overwhelmed with the anger. And I don't always process it the right way. I don't always release it the right way. I'm not always a stellar human being. Like I'm sure most of us are not. But the thing is that what I try to remember in those moments when I'm feeling that anger, when I'm feeling that sadness, is that I'm having that emotion, but it's not overcoming me. It's not owning me. Does that make sense? So this ties into my hypothesis about emotions, and this is based on something that I got from a little bit of Sam Harris and a little bit of Jordan Peterson and a little bit of Wayne Dyer, and just like a little smattering of all these different kinds of people, and also through studying the Kabbalion. And my argument is that, and maybe let me know if you find this helpful, but my argument is that we actually, as humans, only have one thing, one sensation that we call an emotion. Let me say that again. We have one sensation that we call an emotion. So what I mean is this. This is something Sam Harris talks about a lot, is that there's a fine line between anxiety and excitement. So the example he uses is a roller coaster, for example, where for me, if I was getting onto a roller coaster, I would feel a great deal of anxiety because I don't like roller coasters. But somebody else who loves roller coasters is going to be like screaming and elated and having a blast, and they're going to have a really, really good time on it. But his argument is that, and from a neuroscientific point of view, is that emotion is the same. It's just your interpretation of that emotion. So in my model, what I believe and what I've learned to practice in my own life is to say, well, if that's true for anxiety and excitement, then maybe it's also true for other emotions as well. And if you keep boiling it down and boiling it down and boiling it down, then you could reasonably get to the point where you only have one sensation, which we interpret as different emotions. So what Sam is saying is that, if your interpretation of riding a roller coaster is that it's a scary thing and you're going to be stuck on it and then it might be dangerous and you could fall off, then you're going to interpret that sensation as anxiety. Whereas if you interpret it as it's going to be fun, you're going to go fast and you're going to go whip around and you love that kind of thing and it's going to be exhilarating and you're going to get your picture taken screaming, then that's going to be excitement. So the emotion then, the thing that we call the emotion, is just how we interpret that sensation through whatever lens we're looking through, how we interpret the sensation about the upcoming scenario, the upcoming event, through the lens which we're viewing it through. Does that make sense? So you could say that, when you feel anger or when you feel sorrow or when you feel sadness or joy or thanksgiving or gratitude or any one of those sorts of things, if you boil it down and you pay attention to just the sensation around that emotion, my guess, and in my experience, the sensation is exactly the same. The sensation of gratitude is the same sensation as courage. It's the same sensation as anger. It's the same sensation as elation. It's the same sensation as love. There's just that one sensation. And it's here, right in the solar plexus, like a little bit, below the sternum right there. I just feel that there. But then what happens is, based around the scenario, like a couple days ago, I went and checked one of my credit accounts and it was maxed out because, my wife thought that I paid something and she thought that I thought that she did, and it just didn't get paid. And then there were some late fees and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, the things just maxed out. And I'm like, rah! And I just and I just got angry because there's like this incredible sensation that came over me, and I call it anger. But if I feel the sensation, if I'd interpreted it through a different lens, it might have been anxiety. Or if I'd interpreted it through a different lens, it could be hope. Maybe it could have been, elation. It could have been gratitude. It could have been it could have been lots of different things. Now, how could you feel gratitude over, your credit card being maxed out, right? And this is something that Ken Honda talks about, is that when you think about your debt, you think about somebody out there trusted you enough to loan you money. And you should say, oh my God, you should be humbled, oh, they trusted me to do that. So now, when I have this emotion, then when I'm looking at my financial situation, I'm looking at the debts and looking at this kind of thing, instead of just letting it go to anger, I could say, okay, I'm going to feel the same emotion, but now I'm going to say, oh, now this is now obligation. Now I'm feeling commitment. Now I'm feeling a drive to move forward. I'm going to take that. So we say we're going to use that anger and use it to our advantage. But what you're really doing is you're just shifting it, and you're saying, oh, okay, I have debt now. So I'm going to take that energy, instead of saying, okay, this is anger. Now this is a drive to go and pay that off, because these kind people trusted me, and I gave them my word that I would pay this back. So now I'm going to I'm going to go and pay that back. I'm going to generate more revenue so I can pay these things back. Does that make sense? So just a subtle shift in how the lens through which you view the situation changes how you interpret the sensation that you feel in your heart. Make sense? So you can take all that now, and we'll put it over here. We'll put it over there for a second, okay? Because the next step is that you can now, once you realize that that's how that works, you can regulate your emotions, and that's a critical first step to manifestation. So what I mean by that is that if you know that one particular sensation is the same for all emotions. It's just the lens through which you're looking interprets the emotion that we associate with it. Then you can generate that sensation in your heart at any time. You can do it right now. So here's what I do, is all I do is I close my eyes, take a deep breath, relax for a second, and then I just like smile a little bit. Just a little tiny smile. That's it. And sometimes it helps to imagine this, but what I find is that if I just have that little tiny smile, it feels like there's a string that goes from the sides of my lips to my heart, and I just feel better. I just feel better. I just feel happier. But it's the same sensation. It's the same exact sensation. But because my brain is saying, okay, that's a smile now, that must be a feeling of joy. Or we're going to call that gratitude. We're going to call that elation. We're going to call that like whatever the thing is. Do you see what I mean? Do you see how simple this is? This is the thing that Tony Robbins does when he goes and you got these like rah moments and you're like slamming your chest and you're like yeah, arms up in the air and you're screaming, and he says if you want to change your state, you got to change your state. You got to get up and you got to get motivated and right. So when I'm feeling down and low, and I know that I've got like a busy day coming ahead of me, I got a lot of stuff to going on, I'll get up in the morning and I'll do like my push-ups and jumping jacks, and I'll like and I'll give it like a good sort of or I'll like put on some music that I love when I'm driving to work, and I'm like yeah, and just singing along, having a good time, because this is what I'm doing. I am regulating my own emotions. Do you see? And you can do this. It's literally that simple. Once you understand what the process is, it's that easy. I mean, you probably do it all the time anyway. But the trick is that, so here's the thing, is that, this is number 3, is that if you're not being mindful of the emotions that you're having, then they can run away with you, because your thoughts can start to spiral. So for me, thinking about credit card debts and thinking about all this other kind of stuff, I can start saying, just like dwelling on it, and well, Kelly did this and she didn't talk to me and blah 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 blah, and then just kind of like it can spiral into like this weird kind of anger thing, and then causes tension between us, and that's no fun. And then I end up getting angry at the dog for no apparent reason because the dog can't spend money on the credit card, and just like everything gets stupid. But it's because I didn't do number 3 here, which is to check in with myself throughout the day to see the emotions that I'm having, to see the thought process, to check out the lens through which I'm looking at the sensation that I'm having. See? So this is something I think Ian McGilchrist talks about it, where, we look at the world, like these glasses are our paradigm, right? We're looking through them out into the world. But one of the gifts that we have as humans is that we can take these off and I can look at my glasses. I can stop and I can look at the paradigm. I can look at the lens through which I view the world. This is where human self-awareness comes in. This is where, we can, change it. We can say, oh, these are dirty, or these are blue, or these are the wrong color, or these are too tight, or there's something wrong with them, and I can adjust that, right? But I can also just be wearing them so much that I forget that I'm wearing them. So that's what you think about. Once you think about this, when I say, check in with your emotions, check in with yourself throughout the day to see the emotions that you're having, is take your glasses off once in a while and look at them and say, am I looking at, are these anger thoughts? Are these gratitude thoughts? Are these humility thoughts? Are these fear thoughts, anxiety thoughts, shame thoughts? Like, what are the thoughts that I'm having right now that I'm looking through to view the sensation that I feel in my chest? Okay? So that's what I mean by emotional regulation. I'm not asking you to, and so some people will do this through self-medication. Like I'm an alcoholic, and I would do my emotional regulation through just drowning it and saying, I don't want to feel those feelings, so I'm just going to numb myself. Or I would feel like stressed and overwhelmed, and I had trained myself that I felt stressed and overwhelmed, I would smoke a cigarette because that calmed me down a little bit. When it was actually harming me, instead of stopping and saying, well, wait a minute, what's the emotion that I'm feeling? What is this thing that I'm looking through that's causing me to want to have a cigarette? What is that? Or what's this thing that I'm looking through right now that's causing me to want to drink alcohol? Why am I doing that to myself? That doesn't make any sense. So when you stop and you take them off and you look at them and you actually assess it and you see those emotions and you realize, like it talks about in the letting go process by David Hawkins, is that when you just allow yourself to just feel an emotion, it lasts for like maybe a couple of minutes and then it's gone. You just feel those feels. You're looking at the glasses and you're like, oh, okay, that's what the thing is. And then you can like put them back on and go about your day. Okay? So, having said that, let's go to the next slide. And this is doing the internal work. So, I want you to write out the questions in the PDF go to the school.com and go in the discussion group there and write out these things in here, okay? And I want you to talk about this. As much as you're comfortable with, obviously. But here, the task that I have for you is to set an alarm to sound every hour and check in with your emotions and write them down. Over the course of a week, what was the most common emotion? And this is an exercise I got from, I think, Tony Robbins, that I went through one of his programs years and years ago. But what I've found is that as I went through this exercise, and I also developed a practice too, where there's an idea that you cannot change something that isn't measured. You cannot change something if you don't measure it. You can't really understand something if you don't measure it. So if you are going through your life and you're just feeling whatever emotions come up and you're dwelling in them and you're just like harboring them and you're just never doing anything about it or acknowledging them, or you're drowning them, or you're smoking them, or whatever the thing is, then your body's never going to be able to fully process those things. You're always going to be looking through dirty glasses. So sometimes you got to take them off and clean them and be like, oh, right? So for me, when I've done this in the past, I've ranged from sadness to sorrow to depression to feeling dejected, and I've had weeks when I was feeling just like mostly elated or optimistic. And I've finally gotten to a point in my life where even though I go through dark times, even though I have sadness and I have anger and I feel these other sorts of emotions, most of the time I'm obnoxiously optimistic because I see that these emotions are temporary. I see that these emotions don't have any control over me. I see that with the skill and practice, I can choose whatever emotions I want to have in any given moment. I can choose to take my anger and turn it into optimism or gratitude. Oh, my phone's blown up. So keep that in mind. So now we'll look at the last question. If you hadn't been mindful of your emotions before, how do you think this common emotion could have impacted what you manifested? And what I mean is, like, whatever your most common emotion is over the week, if it's true that we live in an emotional universe, if it's true, like we talked about before, that when you align your mind and your heart, that's the thing. Those are the things that you're going to manifest. Whatever you talk about consistently with emotion, whatever you're visualizing with emotion. Remember we talked about in the Gospel of Thomas, when your hand becomes a hand, when your eye becomes eyes, right? When you're taking whatever's on the outside and you're visualizing it so graphically that it's there, you can see it. It's just very visceral. If you've been doing that, but your predominant emotion was anger, what's that going to manifest? If you've been doing that and you're living in your level of consciousness is shame, what's going to happen? If you've been doing that and your level of consciousness, you're like empowered, or you're feeling gratitude, or you're feeling optimistic, or you're feeling love, or you're feeling courage, and you're using those practices of manifestation that you're visualizing so strongly, but you haven't taken the time to master the art of making sure that you're feeling gratitude, like gratitude, then what sorts of things in your life do you think maybe you've manifested? Because we are manifesting creatures. We're manifesting all day, every day. That's all we ever do. So what things in your life have you manifested because of how you've been? How has that impacted your life? So write that in the comments. I know for myself, I have manifested things into my life that were like my marriage early on. I manifested my wife. She's exactly who I had pictured in my mind. But when I was doing the manifestation work, I was also feeling angry. I was also feeling lonely. I was feeling sadness. I was feeling those other sorts of things. And so those, looking back now over my marriage, those emotions that were there and present when I was doing that manifestation work have continued throughout my marriage. So if I could go back, I would do all the same things that I did. But then I would have said, okay, but I'm going to take those feelings of loneliness. I'm going to take those feelings of anger, of remorse. I'm taking like all those other sorts of emotions, and I'm going to deal with those first, and get those out of the way, and then do the manifestation work. Because whatever you manifest is going to have those emotional reverberation patterns within them when the thing comes into your life. Does that make sense? So this is one of the lessons I'm learning right now about money, is that when money comes into your life, if you're feeling gratitude, or if the thing that you are doing to earn income is not providing you with joy and fulfillment and well-being, then when that money comes into your life, because money is just energy, when that money comes into your life, it's going to be laced with whatever emotion was there while you earned it. So me, for example, I'm just putting this together right now. For me, I often feel enslaved by debt and by lack of finances, or things that aren't showing up at the right time. But the way that I earn money is through a civil service job, or through the military, where I was bound, I was stuck, I couldn't get away, I didn't have any choice in doing that. I couldn't choose what I could wear, or where I could go, or who I could, how my hair could be. I hadn't have any choice in that. So it only makes sense that when the money shows up in my life, because I was bound up when I earned it, then my money is bound up as well. Ooh, wow. I may have just unlocked something for myself right there. See, this is great. Anyway, I would love to see you have your discussion in the comments over on school.com/finding Fuscata. Got some great stuff going on over there. Unless you're watching this through the platform, in which welcome and thank you, and I would love to get your feedback. So, on that note, I will see you when I see you. Thanks for your time.